And so I got to go to college, and it was really interesting because it was the first time in my life that I felt like, oh, nobody needs to know about me, my past. Nobody needs to know about what happened in high school. Like nobody knew. I got to start over. I got to start over. And sometimes that's just what you need in life. You need to start over. The people that have said bad things about you or know you to be a certain way, you get to start over in different times of your life. So I got to start over in college. I get to college, and within like 2 days, I had 12 friends. 12. We had a tribe. I made these great friends. And it was so exciting for me because the first time in my life, I had these really good friends. We were like in this little group. We went to breakfast together. We went to lunch together. I didn't just have like 3 friends. I had 12 friends. I had a multitude and like a plethora of friends. And it was so cool because I had been really serious about going to college because I knew that was my final opportunity. It was that, or I'm going to go flip burgers at McDonald's. That's exactly what I thought to myself. And so there were no opportunities for me to mess this thing up. There was not going to be an opportunity. I took college very seriously to the point where nobody knew where I was because I was in the library studying. I was in the library. People would ask me, "Oh, what do you do, Julie?" I'd be like, "I don't know, just around studying." And I would separate myself from my friends, literally separate myself from them because I didn't want to be distracted because I knew I had a mission. There was a mission in front of me. And if I had messed up the mission in any way, I knew that I would either become a hairdresser or flip burgers at McDonald's. And there's nothing wrong with either of those careers. It just wasn't for me. I didn't care about my hair, nor did I care about makeup. I wasn't into it. It was never something I was like, oh, when I buy makeup, I wasn't into that. I wasn't into that. I was into music. I was into microphones. I was into electronics. I was into geeky things at that point. Music. I was really into music. I was really into singing. I got into dancing. I took a tap dance class in college. Gregory Hines came to the college, and there was a pretty serious dance program at the college. Dean College in Franklin, Massachusetts was the college. And my mother told people that she had to buy me a college because I couldn't get accepted anywhere. My SATs were like, I don't know, 400. I got something stupid number on my SATs because I didn't have the ability to learn in high school. So everything that I've learned, and I think has been from the time I've left high school till now. And so in college, I took it very seriously. I was a Dean's List student, in college. I was an orientation leader. I was a Dean List student. And there was one class I didn't do well in. It was algebra because those were the skills that I didn't learn in high school. Can you imagine going to college and not knowing algebra? That was me. That was me. I had to take all the remedial classes. So I had to go to all the office hours, every office hour for algebra. And in fact, I'll tell you the truth. I had to take algebra over. I had to take it over because I got a D in it. I had to take it over to get a B. I'm literally exposing all of my truth here, all of my truth. And so building these resilient muscles of having to really suffer through the deficiency of not knowing algebra in college. Can you imagine not understanding math by the time you get to college? I don't know how I made it through high school, but I was in some of the lower basic level classes, so I think they passed me. But the truth is I really didn't become a student until college. So I studied my butt off. There was a disconnect in my brain. And so all those years that I didn't learn, I had to make up for them in college. So I would spend hours in the library. Now, when I say hours, I'm talking 8 hours sometimes at a time. I'm talking like I had to reprogram my brain because of the deficiency that I had. I needed to be able to hang with those people. And it's amazing what the will do. When you want something, you will do it. If you want it bad enough, you will do it. And I wanted it so badly. I wanted to be able to say, I can do this. Learning disability, whatever disability you want to call it. I made up for it by putting the hours in. I made up for it by putting the hours in. And it worked. It worked. Dr. Harry Creshpain, my Western civilization professor. Now, can you imagine in high school? I don't even remember what I learned in history. Don't even remember. But Dr. Creshpain's class, I crushed his class with an A. I mean, when I say I crushed college, I crushed college with A's. If I got a B, math was the only one I did bad in, but like even the hard classes like biology, intro to biology, like B plus, A. You know, there were very few B's, mostly A's, but that was because I worked hard. Nothing in my life was handed to me, nothing. And so I had to push forward. And I took college very seriously. I continued to take it seriously. And so I continued on that journey. I became part of the music program there. And I had a professor say to me, Julie, if you don't pursue music, you will never, never be happy. And I was like, okay, never going to be happy. But I did it as much as I could. I took performance class. I took tap class. I took a public speaking class. I just loved to learn. It excited me. It was the remedy to my problems. Learning was the remedy to my problems. I could learn. I could learn. And it may have taken me longer than everyone else. And everyone else might have studied for 2 hours to my 8. But I was happy to put in the 8 hours because I knew that I could get the same results as they did. That's how I did this. I got the same result as they did. They worked 2 hours. I worked 8. And I was able to overcome that obstacle by putting in the more reps than them because that's what it required of me. I knew what it took to learn the materials. I was not a memorizer, but between notebooks and writing things out, back then, we barely had a computer. I got my first computer at 19 years old. 1994. Okay, guys, I'm telling you the truth. 1994, I transferred after Dean College to Rowan University. And in 1994, my father bought me a computer and it was in my dorm room. So many people my age may not be fluent in computers. I got a computer at 19. And that is interesting because that computer, when you get it at 19, there is a level of fluency 30 years later. You have a fluency of computers 30 years later if you're on a computer for 30 years. Can you imagine? That's just like somebody right now having a computer. So the computer is, when people don't know computers, it's like, oh, you're from like a different generation than me. And it's not like that. I was a different kind of Gen Xer where computer was my thing. So, and then I got into all the electronics and the video production. And so, you know, at 19, when I was in college, I got a job at the radio station. I was at Rowan College. After a long stint pledging a sorority and realizing it wasn't for me, I quit. I quit the sorority a few days before I got inducted. That's a whole story. I'll have to get someone of my friends to be on here because that story is just like a ridiculous story. But the thing is, my professor, I was doing bad in one of my classes, semantics, and this man was old. He was so old that I could barely understand him when he spoke. And it was very hard. This class was so hard because I couldn't even understand him. And it was semantics. So imagine taking a class from someone you could barely understand. I was pledging a sorority. I got another D in that class. And I went straight up to him and I'm like, listen, I can't get a D. You got to help me out. I need to retake some tests. And he said to me, Julie, why are you in college? Are you here to pledge a sorority or are you here to get an education? That's what he said to me. And in that moment, I said to him, I'm here to get an education, sir. And that moment changed everything for me. I went back to my dorm and I really thought about that until pledge night, hell night. Back then they called it hell night. The girls didn't do hell week. We did hell night. And they took us around. They blindfolded us. It was this whole situation. They were yelling at me and yelling at my pledge class. And they said, what does Phi Sigma Sigma mean to you? What does it mean to you? Tell us. They're like yelling at us. And of course, I had to drudge up some answer that meant nothing to me. But in my mind, I said, absolutely freaking nothing. This sorority means nothing to me, but my education means something to me. And so that morning, when we were all just about to get inducted, after I spent the entire night doing hell night, I called up the pledge class leader and I said, I'm quitting. And they could not understand what I was doing. They just couldn't understand it. They're like, what do you mean you're quitting? You just went through hell night. What do you mean you're quitting? And I said, yeah, I'm quitting because I need to get an education. And there would be nothing more exciting for me to get involved in the radio station. And that was what was in front of me, this radio station opportunity to be on the radio. 89.7 WGLS FM, the voice of Rowan College. I was the voice of Rowan College. I became the voice of Rowan College. I had 2 talk shows. And I had a Clubhouse Super Mix with Johnny Q. I became CJ the DJ. And it was the most magical time of my life. To be in college, to be on the radio, for people to hear us and what we were doing in the studio. It was magical. And I had such a fun time. I would edit my shows. I had finally an internship with Professor Frank Hogan, and he took me along and allowed me to do an internship at the radio station. And at the time, I was like kind of embarrassed because I was doing a radio station college internship, but he gave me this opportunity to interview professors. Imagine this. I had to take this little box with a tape cassette player of some sort and a microphone. And I had to make appointments with these professors. And I had like 5 questions I needed to ask them. And he ran that series for years after I left. He thought it was one of the most brilliant series he's ever brought to the station. And I thought it was the dumbest thing I ever had to do. I thought it was dumb. I was like saying to everybody, I'm doing this stupid thing. I don't know why I'm doing it. I'm just doing it. And then here I am with the microphone again, with an audience again, able to just kind of riff off and remember that I did this in college. Like when you start to remember what you did as a young person and you're able to like come back to who you started becoming, and because life took you in a different direction from where you started, this is the journey that I've been on.